Welcome to the Beer Channel. Another episode. Maybe you want to call it Season 2 because I haven't done one of these in a while. Whatever you want to call it, this is going to be a really good one because of what I have in front of me today is a very special beer that was sent to me by a very good friend who happened to travel to Europe over the summer. He sent me a bottle of this, and I think it was probably back in May or June, and I've kept it refrigerated since then. It's a bottle of Guinness Special Export. Now, of course, Guinness makes a lot of different beers, and I was lucky enough probably about 12 or 13 years ago to get a bottle of a Guinness Foreign Extra Stout, which in those days, and actually up to about a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago, wasn't available in the United States. At that time, I had a brewer friend who took a trip to Jamaica, as I recall, and he brought back a bottle, and it was just a great beer. You could probably because there was a little bit of extra mystique because it was a beer you couldn't get here in the States. But really enjoyed it, and it was sort of a holy grail that had been conquered. Up until a couple of years ago, I had a coworker who went to Jamaica every few years and bring me several bottles when she came back, and that was nice too. But then, as I said, Guinness started to actually sell the beer in the United States, so you can buy Guinness Foreign Extra Stout in the U.S. today. And I guess now I have to, because I've no longer got that bragging rights on that particular beer, now we're going to have to talk about this one, which I can tell you that Guinness Special Export is not sold in the United States, and who knows, maybe someday it will, but this actually goes to Belgium, and that's where my friend picked it up and brought it back for me. So it's a very special beer. Guinness, as we mentioned before, they make quite a few stouts actually. There's everybody's familiar with draft Guinness. That's probably with the nitro pour and the thick creamy head. The pub draft in the cans, which is sort of meant to emulate that, and it's a little bit different. The bottled Guinness Extra Stout, which for many years, has been available, but is not the same as draft Guinness. Guinness, they introduced in the U.S., as I said, the Foreign Extra Stout a couple of years ago. In 2009, they did a 250th anniversary stout, and even recently they released a black lager, a Schwarzbier, which some people, are a little bit hesitant about Guinness and producing a lager. But if anybody knows anything about how to roast malt, it's Guinness. So in my mind, that's a logical progression. So this one is a little bit stronger. I think the Extra Stout is 7.5%, if I'm not mistaken. And this one says it's 8%. It's a 33 centiliter bottle. This one actually has a best by date of July of next year, 2012. So it's well within its best by date, but I think probably it would, if you keep it properly, it would go even beyond there. So let's crack it. And give it a pour into our Guinness Stout glass. Get a little bit of a head on it there. And I'll turn it around. You can see the Guinness logo on the other side, and let you see the bottle here. Really jet black, as I expect, with that really big creamy tan head on it. Oh, it's amazing. Very roasty nose. A little bit of chocolate in there. That's amazing. It's really got a more robust roastiness to it than any of the Guinnesses that I've tried before. It's a little fruity, very chocolatey. Maybe a hint of licorice. And you can actually, you can taste the alcohol. It's definitely adding character to the beer. There are some unique esters going on here. not quite. Of course, we're going to look at this as it's a dry Irish stout on steroids almost. It's not to the level of an imperial stout, but you can get like that hint of licorice, maybe some raisin in there, and it wants to really be a bigger beer, and I think it succeeds than the alcohol would imply. But this is a beer that's in a class of its own. It's just amazing. And of course, when we talk about Guinness and stout and dry stout and different kinds of stouts, you got to look at it in the context of style. There are a lot of different stouts. There's cream stout, Irish dry stout, imperial stout. I could go on and on. And I don't think you can talk about a beer. You can't talk about or review a beer without bringing style into context. A fool once told me that brewers don't care anything about style, and that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. Michael Jackson, he devoted his life to establishing the fact that beers were defined by style. And if you think about it, to the brewer, style is really it's the blueprint for the beer. You want to produce a beer, that if you want to brew a great Pilsner, you're going to use some Pilsner malt and maybe some German hops, and there's even different styles of Pilsners, but you're going to pretty much tailor the beer to what you're trying to produce and the recipe you're trying to follow. And I think recipe is a very good analogy for style. We've all been there in the kitchen where we're trying to whip something up and maybe we're missing an ingredient or two, and so we improvise. And sometimes that really works well, and we say, hey, you know what, that's something new. Brewers do that too, and they'll take a style and they will change a few ingredients, and they'll come up with something that maybe entirely new, or maybe a variation on a classic style. But there's always that foundation, and if you don't look at a beer in the context of style, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So that said, for this beer, this is something that John, it's worth whatever you paid for it. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really appreciating it. I think if you're a beer connoisseur and you ever get the chance to get a hold of this beer, it's well worth it. I don't know what it goes for over there. I did see online there's a retailer in the UK. I think they ship within England, but it's something like 74 euros for a case of 24 bottles. It would certainly be worth that. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. I hope you'll check out my website, brewguru.com. You can drop me an email, brewguru@brewguru.com, and cheers.